What's up, guys? It's been a while since you've seen this car, but hopefully this video is going to be, if not completely, the first episode in the return of the problem child. So we have a couple things going on. The 97 has been sitting for a while, and it's two main reasons why I haven't been driving it or working on it or anything else, other than, of course, the fact that the 05 has been keeping me fairly busy. One, it has an overheating issue. But before we get into that, it more recently developed a much worse problem in the transmission. Here's basically the set of symptoms. If the car's been sitting and you start it up, initially, it functions 100% normally. It sounds normal. You put it in gear, it drives, everything. Once it has been in gear a couple times or moved a little bit or whatever, after a couple minutes, the transmission starts whining very similarly to a power steering pump when it's going bad or when it's low. And it will slowly, over the next minute or so, just lose every gear. It's like it has no fluid in it at all. Now, the sound makes me think the pump's going dry. I don't think anymore, at least, that the pump shaft has broken, although that is a common problem on these transmissions. But I don't think that's happening because it's making that noise, and I think if the pump wasn't turning, it would be likely that it wouldn't be making that noise. Two, the fact that it works when you first start it, then it stops, and then you let it sit and it comes back. A broken pump shaft wouldn't come back. It's either broken or it's not broken. So the idea that I have right now is that we have a fluid problem. I know that it's full, I checked that it's full, but it may be having problems getting fluid up into the transmission. So we're gonna get under this thing and see what's going on with the pan. We're gonna drop the pan. We're gonna look at the filter and everything on the bottom side there and see if we can find a problem. First thing, I've already put it on ramps. That should get it high enough. We're gonna put a pan under it now. And all you basically have to do from here is we're gonna be taking all the bolts out of the pan, and then we're just gonna see what it looks like. So now that we're under here, I've got my pan under here already, and I've already noticed one thing that was not here last time. Apparently I've bottomed out and hit something. I can't remember if this dent was in the oil pan or not, but I'm pretty sure that those two lines in the pan were not there before. That is a really, really easy thing to do in these cars because they have very little ground clearance to begin with. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this pan out of here. This is all basically just a bunch of 10mm bolts all the way around it. The only trick to this, for anyone following along, is that you want to start on one end, loosen, take them out about halfway through, just start loosening them and leave some in on the other side so that the pan can tilt and dump all the fluid one way. Otherwise it just comes out everywhere and it's really hard to catch. So let's get that done first. Several of these out, it'll start raining fluid on you, but if you started on one end and worked your way to the other, it'll mostly just be in one spot. The next thing I can tell you from looking at this, because I have not ever had to service this transmission before. The previous owner had just supposedly had one put in it, so I hadn't gotten around to that. But the fluid is a little dark looking. I'm not super happy with the way that looks. But I'm gonna let it drain for a few minutes, then we'll get the rest of these bolts out so we can let the pan the rest of the way down. And then we will see what's going on under this. Okay, so now that everything is out, other than the obvious physical damage to the pan, the filter, I can't really tell, but it is just horribly, horribly nasty. Just really, really full of this grit, which is strange to me because it sort of looks like transmission clutch material. But I don't know why a transmission that wasn't slipping would have produced this much clutch material in that short a period of time. So it's strange, but I guess it's possible that this filter is just full and maybe it just can't suck up any more fluid because of this. I'm just not understanding where all this is coming from right off. But since this is an obvious issue, I'm gonna go ahead and clean all of this off. All you need to do to remove these if you're changing your own is pry it straight down. It just sits into a seal that sits up in the transmission. The seal itself comes with the kit, and this is what it looks like. And you can just basically knock the old one out and push this one in. Then you're gonna press the filter into that. So that's all pretty straightforward stuff. We're gonna keep this filter. We might actually even look at the inside of this later and see what's going on. But for now, I'm gonna clean this up, and all I'm gonna do basically is clean it with degreaser and some brushes and get all of this off and all this out, and we'll be right back. So after changing the fluid and the filter, I drove it a little bit and it was low again. I had to put a lot more fluid in it than you would normally have to changing the pan gasket, which does tell me another thing. It means that the transmission was pumping all the fluid out of the inside of it into the pan, but couldn't get fluid back. So I think we can confirm at this point that the reason I lost all the gears before was because of the filter just being completely full of what looks to me like clutch material. So why did it do that? Well, even on the second test drive, I could still feel the torque converter control trying to lock when it shouldn't have. So I know that was an actual legitimate failure, but that occurred when I was on vacation. I was not able to stop driving the car, so unfortunately I had to drive it all the way back with torque converter control stuck in the locked position. I can only assume that the clutch material that we're seeing is probably the torque converter clutch tearing itself up because it's trying to apply all the time. So the good news is it drives again. I drove it around a bit and it never went back to not being able to shift gears at all. However, the shifts don't feel like they used to. So it is having some problems in second gear sometimes. First to second gear shift doesn't feel very good, and it off and on acts like it wants to slip when it's trying to shift gears, or like it's having trouble getting to where it's supposed to. So I think it's safe to assume at this point probably that that clutch material has made its way all the way through the transmission and is probably causing problems everywhere. So that's my diagnosis. That's what I think is going on. And it is movable again, which is better than it was. But now we've got to decide what to do next. And pretty much my options at this point would be rebuild the transmission. That's expensive and time consuming. Replace the transmission with another used low mileage transmission of the same type, which would be less expensive, still time consuming though, because pulling transmissions on these in a driveway is not exactly fun. And then of course the other option is try something crazy, look at something like a 5-speed swap, whatever. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, and if you guys have suggestions, make sure you put them down in the comments because I will consider them. In the meantime, for now, I'm just glad it moves again. I will keep it here and drive it every once in a while up and down the road a little so that we can bring it back in later, but I'm gonna get back to focusing on the 99 and the 05 since the two of them are still running correctly. In the meantime, make sure you drop a like on this video. It really helps my channel grow. Make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and that you've hit the notification bell, and wish me luck with these cars that don't ever want to stop breaking. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.